Great, thank you so much. Again, those who are viewing online, this is the session where we are going to be discussing. This is a workshop session, definitely enlightened. As yesterday on these panels, I thank Dr. Dada and Dean Roll and my colleague Veronica Udugalandia for working through this component of it. What we want to do is to bring forth again the role and relationships with both federal, state, and local government and how they work together with organizations and business entity to stimulate businesses. So our first presenter you'll hear from Kim Hardy. Kim is a diversity manager of ONEJFK USA, which is, she said, is the largest, if you use the word international, right, project in terms of JFK. Those of you online, is John F. Kennedy Airport, right? I think if I may open with this is, I think there was a congressional delegation who went to Asia or Europe and they came back so disappointed. Couple of the senators, right? Correct. Looking and seeing how fascinating the airport system were in Europe and in Asia, and to look at New York City, JFK, an international city like ours, and that our airport, and I won't quote what the elected officials said, but I think that prompted that. And from that on, with that development, the governor's office came in. Of course, airports are federal. Put my context in PA as I'm a professor of public administration. So we're talking about the federal government because airport then it's a federal matter, but also state with the Port Authority. We have the New York, New Jersey Port Authority, which means both governors, right, manage that authority. So then they came involved as well. So what you hear from Kim Hardy is how these relationships work, and hopefully that you can take back and go back to London and go back to Nigeria, South Africa, wherever you're from, Finland, and look at models of how when we are developing projects and concept and how we bring the community in, how we bring small businesses in, how we bring the educational community in as all partners. Kim is well known in this space. She was former deputy commissioner for HPD, that's Housing and Preservation Development in New York City. She's a graduate of Yale Law School, so she's an attorney as well. So she brings all of that combined. Without any further ado, Kim Hardy.
Greg, thank you so much. And thank you to the organizers of the conference. It's my distinct pleasure to address you today to tell you about a very exciting project, as Greg has mentioned, happening here in New York City, but that will really have global ramifications. And that is the redevelopment of Terminal 1 at JFK Airport. This is a $9.5 billion project.
Could you repeat the B that folks don't confuse M with a B?
Yeah. $9.5 billion with a B project that is 100% privately financed.
Wow.
It's a public and private partnership, or P3, involving, as Greg had said, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Obviously, the governor of New York is really taking the lead in redeveloping the airports here that are in New York State. The Port Authority, of course, also works with the governor of New Jersey, who is also redeveloping Newark Airport and other facilities. But for the terminal that I'm affiliated with, I have the great pleasure of working with the new Terminal 1. This project will be in construction, and I'll talk a little more in depth about it, until 2026 for the first phase. It's the largest of the projects at JFK, which is undergoing a more massive redevelopment involving other terminals. And this is the largest project. The overall JFK redevelopment budget involving all projects is approximately $18 billion. And so this one is more than half. Now, I mentioned that it's privately financed. We have a key equity financial sponsors, beginning with the lead sponsor, Ferrovial. Some of you may be familiar with Ferrovial. Ferrovial is very strong across the globe in the construction space, and also owns and manages over 30 airports worldwide, or excuse me, terminals worldwide, including Heathrow. So Ferrovial is a key partner. JLC Infrastructure is a partnership between Magic Johnson Enterprises. Some of you may know Magic Johnson, basketball legend and business entrepreneur, and Jim Reynolds of Loop Capital. Was particularly noteworthy from my perspective as the lead on diversity is that JLC is also what we call a minority-owned business enterprise. And that is a really key component that one of the financial sponsors has a significant 30% equity stake in this project, because that really sets the tone for diversity throughout the project. And we'll talk more about that. We also have ULICO, which is the Union Life Insurance Company. So labor or unionized labor, construction workers, significant role on the project. And we'll talk more about a project labor agreement that was crafted for this project, but it also makes allowances for non-union companies that are minority or women owned. And we'll talk a little more about that. And then lastly, the Carlyle Group, which was one of the initial lead sponsors, and they've taken a minority position with Ferrovial. But Carlyle, global company, investments in across all industries. So it's a stellar group of financial sponsors that all have representatives on our board. We have a project management office that we call the Capital Project Delivery Office. It's led by Ferrovial Construction. We have people worldwide working on the project. And of course, we have people that are local here to New York, and specifically Queens near JFK Airport that are on the project. We also have Lear Cummings, a noted construction management and owner's rep firm. We have S&C Lavalin, which again is a global firm based in Canada. We have Uzo Okoyo Law, a law firm based here in Brooklyn that serves as counsel to the project management office. And Palmina Wellen, a strategic planning, is also part of our project management office. And then last but not least, McKissick, which is the firm that I am employed as senior vice president for compliance, for diversity, inclusion, and compliance. McKissick has been on the project since the beginning of the project. And while I'm leading the diversity and community engagement effort, we have team members that are involved in all aspects of the project, from design and construction and anything else. Now, the capital project team really has oversight of our design builder team. And the design builder is A. Tishman, worldwide builder, particularly here in New York, built the World Trade Center, built Arthur Ashe Stadium, lots of other iconic projects under its belt, and the designer is Ginsler. And then lastly, we are working with URW to manage all the concessions, all the shops that will be in the terminal. So it's a really strong team that's kind of leading this effort. And certainly at McKissick, we're very proud to be in this group. Very quickly, this project broke ground in September. It was attended, the groundbreaking was attended by about 400 people, including our governor, our local congressman, Congressman Meeks, who also chairs Congress's one of the foreign services committees, and the Queensborough President Donovan Richards. So it's really very exciting because this terminal, as you can imagine, will be a state-of-the-art terminal in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of safety, in terms of environmental friendliness. And it's all going to be built with a diverse group of consultants and workers, and really strong commitments to ensure that we have, Greg spoke about different levels of government here, federal, state, local, very important to have all of our stakeholders kind of involved in the overall JFK redevelopment. And for us, that will help us to drive diversity throughout the project. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we think will be a historic participation for minorities and women. So for the new Terminal 1, just to talk a little bit about the overall impact, as I said, it's a big project. So we expect that this project alone will generate 10,000 permanent jobs, not just in construction, but permanent jobs, 5,000 during construction. Again, we've spoken about the importance of creating the opportunities for not only local businesses, but for local residents to gain employment, where we'll be prioritizing, as per the Port Authority's requirements, about 37 zip codes surrounding JFK. Most of those are in New York City, but a few are in Nassau County. We spoke about the project labor agreement. We spoke about the importance of environmental sustainability. It'll be at least LEED Silver certification. We'll also expect to have Envision certification, which not only speaks to sustainability, but also speaks to the involvement of the community for that particular certification. And then we spoke about diversity, but just very specifically, there is a 30% goal to have minority and or women businesses represented. You have to be certified through either New York State's Empire State Development Corporation or the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. The way that's broken down is that it's 10% for women. And in this case, when we say women, we really are speaking of non-minority women, and 20% for minorities. So women of color are considered minority when we're counting the numbers. And really, when we think about diversity and participation, it's all about the numbers. We're adding the dollars, the value of the contract dollars, how many of those are going to minority and women-owned businesses. We also have a 3% goal for service-disabled veterans, as well as we are striving to have at least 10% of the contract values go to local companies within those 37 zip codes that I mentioned,
Right.
and or the borough of Queens. There are also, through the Port Authority, our lease with the Port Authority, similar to all the other terminal developers at JFK, workforce hiring goals, so that we want to ensure that we have minorities and women on the workforce. So very strong goals in that regard. But that is, I think, something really very exceptional. Particularly want to commend the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, because we are really creating new ways of community engagement. Just a quick map of what when we say local, what we mean. Those are the 37 zip codes that are surrounding JFK Airport. Let's see if I can find, you can see in the blue. Let's see, am I gonna, no, I can't get the green light up. But this blue area is the airport itself. It has its own zip code. So these are areas surrounding it. So we're just very focused on identifying businesses. If they're eligible to become minority and women certified businesses or service disabled veteran owned businesses, we want to get them certified. But even if they're not, we still want to try to work with as many businesses from the local community. Thank you so much. As possible, because it's important that these major infrastructure projects have a positive impact on the local community. And so part of my job is really to ensure that we are going to have that impact, because we want to break down any perceived walls between the airport and the local community. This gives you a sense of just the size of this building. What we've done is overlay the new Terminal 1 over Times Square. I'm sure all of you here are familiar with Times Square in New York. That's over 10 blocks. So this really gives you a sense of how mammoth this airport, this airport terminal will be.
Wow.
You know, 2.4 million square feet.
Wow.
And so the new Terminal 1, when it's completed, probably about 2030. Again, first phase is 2026, but the second and third phases are scheduled to be completed by the end of the decade, will be 250% larger than the existing terminal. And for those of you that are familiar already with JFK, the new Terminal 1 will take over the existing Terminal 1, plus the former Terminal 2 and 3. So it's really mammoth. And let me mention that the current Terminal 1 will continue operating. As some of you know, it's the only all international terminal currently at JFK, and it will remain that way when the new Terminal 1 takes over. We've spoken about the importance of government officials and key stakeholders. The governor of New York established something called the JFK Redevelopment Advisory Council. As mentioned, Congressman Meeks and the borough president lead that effort. All of our elected officials that are in those zip codes that I showed you are members, in addition to other key stakeholders from business, from clergy, from educational institutions that play a role. And again, the effort is to ensure that the community benefits from the project. That there are certain areas that the advisory council has identified that they want to ensure that we have some positive impact on the community. Number one, business development. What does that mean? Supporting your small businesses, your local businesses. How can we build capacity? So they have a committee for that. Then there's the workforce committee. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Obviously a big priority. Environmental stewardship. When you live near an airport, you hear a lot of noise. There are a lot of fumes. So that's why the Port Authority has negotiated with the terminal developers to make all of the new projects as efficient and environmentally friendly and sustainable as possible to reduce any concerns that the community might have, even going so far as to really limit trucks to ensure that we're using electric buses to transport workers to the site. And then finally, education, trying to develop the next generation of aviators and getting people to really understand all of the opportunities, and they are immense. Airports, even terminals, are really like little cities. And to get our children excited about not just becoming a pilot or a flight attendant, but becoming an executive, a customer service rep, cleaning the planes. So many careers are there. Again, this terminal is slated to generate 10,000 jobs. So we want to prepare our young people.
We have 7 more minutes because we want people online to ask questions if they want.
Very good, okay. So part of our work is we do lots of outreach sessions to make businesses aware of what we're doing. We also try to support and invest in the community, various nonprofits that are doing great things, whether it's one of the proudest moments for us at the new Terminal 1 is providing scholarships to local high school students
Nice.
for flight certification, for training from August Martin High School, one of our local high schools. So that's where we gave a check to do that, but we've probably participated in well over 300 events.
Nice.
There's a couple of news articles, sometimes we get in the news, and we like to highlight the firms we're working with because we want to give encouragement, particularly to minority women, local businesses, that they too can find a way to get on this project. So with that, I am going to leave you. I hope you will check out our terminal at www.anewjfk.com. You can learn about the new Terminal 1, and you can learn about the other developments taking place at JFK Airport. Delighted to take some questions.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you. Questions from the audience, and then we look online to see.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I used JFK 3 times, and I always deal with a very positive response and feedback in the airport. So my question is that how many plane or passengers can Terminal 1 accommodate?
Oh, good question.
That's a great question, and I don't have the answer to that. I have to get you the answer. Currently, I believe there are about 11 gates, and when the project the new Terminal 1 is completed, there'll be, I believe, approximately 26 gates. But I can get you that information in terms of the traffic.
Second is that in United Arab Emirates, we had like some MOUs with the Dubai Airport, which is also one of the best airports in
Yes.
the world, where we teach the students some courses needed by the airports, let's say, either services on the ground or on air. Okay, but those curriculums were provided by Dubai Airport. So if you can do the same, you provide the colleges here, at least in New York, for example. These are the requirements for the next generation employees, which we need. Like so there, we use the norms of IATA, all right, the standards. We teach them so that when they go to the airports, either for training or for the workplace, they don't have to be trained again.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm so glad that you asked that question, because one of the initiatives that NTO, or the new Terminal 1, has put forth is something we call the JFK Airport Academy. And the ideal is to really provide workforce training, not just the soft kind of skills, but real training on how one can help start a career in aviation, the various roles, as well as perhaps at some point continuing education for existing employees. And then with the Port Authority and other partners focusing on young people, like starting in elementary school.
And the target
It's so
audience
important.
will not be only the local. All right, you can target international students also to come and do, like when everybody hear about New York. Okay, I have done this twice. I brought students from Middle East to New York. So everybody is happy to come to New York. So
Absolutely.
when you have such training center, you can also attract people from another countries to come and do 4 months training program here, which can also give them certificate, and that can build up their career.
No, absolutely. And we are certainly thinking of ways to speak to some of the certifying organizations for aviation. And that gives someone really the ability to work internationally, but we expect that it will attract students from all over. But we do want to start with our local,
Yes.
our local folks, but certainly expanding and becoming a model is so great. We are fortunate to have, again, Ferrovia leading our capital delivery office and serving as lead sponsor. And certainly there's a Heathrow Academy that we're very familiar with, and there are other great examples. Thank you for sharing the one that you mentioned.
Thank you, thank you.
Doctor?
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation, and thank you for visiting the Endeavour School. Do you know if they have any internships, you know, that students can apply for or participate in?
We anticipate that there will be internships. We're still just kind of getting underway because the new Terminal 1 is really a new corporate organization, but we anticipate that there will be. Certainly the Port Authority currently has summer programs for college students that are interested in aviation and architecture and engineering. I'd be happy to put you in touch with someone, but certainly having internship is on the horizon for the new Terminal 1.
Yeah, because you need their requirements for the student to earn that course. He has to finish number of hours of credit hours training.
True.
So you need some information from the college as how the internship should be run also.
In fact, I'm already thinking about, because we have urban economics, we have economic development, you know, courses. We can revisit the curriculum based on this new project, where students at least we build it in as part of the credits that they can earn. Some of it as practicum, some of it as field, you know, projects and things. So this is truly very interesting.
Yes, I think it's a great opportunity. I think we have a wonderful opportunity here to really expand not just one generation, but a couple of generations if we start young.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it. James, was there any question that I need to respond to right now? Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Hardy. And this is, as Dr. knows, this is going internationally, so folks will see you. So maybe in Heathrow Airport, right? We just mentioned Heathrow, the connection to that. So again, number of partnerships, because a lot of them come through from London. So thank you again so much, Ms. Hardy.
Wonderful. You were very welcome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. So we're going to continue with that. The whole concept of looking at revitalization of secondary commercial corridors in New York. And now we're going to turn our attention to Mr. Kenneth MBonu, President, CEO of the Flatbush Junction BID here in the great borough of Brooklyn. For those of you online, the city has 8.5 million inhabitants, citizens residing in this great city, and Brooklyn has 3.5 million folks on here. So this is detailed, and to put some of that in context, the BID, when you see the word there for those of you online, business, the BID refers to Business Improvement District. Business Improvement District. So the Business Improvement District, that's what the word BID means, the acronym for, where the city, combination of the mayor's office of small business services, work with number of corridors and businesses and to develop, to make sure that attention is paid to those merchants, right? Those businesses that are there providing the services, those restaurants. So Kenneth will talk a little bit about, I'll ask him to do what encompasses the BID, the corridors in the BID, those businesses that are there. So again, these are models that you can follow through and learn from, as this conference is all about, and take it back to South Africa, take it back to the Finland, take it back to Pakistan, any of the other places, and propose these type of developments to your local or state government. Without any further ado, Mr. Kenneth MBonu. Kenneth has an MBA from Pace University. He has worked a lot with mergers and acquisition, with a number of banks and development. So he comes highly trained and respected here in this borough, working with the mayoral administration, working with the governor's office in terms of that. Remember, because these are partnerships and projects where the local government put forth dollars and initiative, and Ken oversees that. So Kenneth, take it on. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you very much. Great intro. Kenneth MBonu, I'm with the Flatbush Nostrand Junction Business Improvement District. We're a business improvement district in Brooklyn, New York. So we serve an urban community that's not like, we're not the Times Square, we are not the Grand Central Partnership. It's all about revitalizing secondary commercial corridors. We all know that post-COVID, many neighborhoods were struggling, and but the bids, there are 76 bids in New York City. Bids were actually created. There was a time when New York City had its own economic challenges, and business improvement districts were created to help revitalize the commercial corridors in Manhattan, and they spread out into Brooklyn and Queens and so on. So there are 76 bids in New York City. A bid or a business improvement district is actually a geographical commercial area where local stakeholders oversee and fund the maintenance, improvement, and promotion of the commercial district. So the bids actually provide supplementary services. You have the garbage, you have the Department of Sanitation that picks up the garbage. But one thing they realized is keeping the neighborhood or the commercial corridor clean consistently helps keep people in the area and enables them now to want to go into the brick and mortar stores to shop. So the cleaning aspect, supplementary cleaning aspects, I'm sure you go to certain areas, you see people in uniforms. They're not sanitation, but they're in uniforms cleaning certain areas. Those areas usually are covered by business improvement districts, and it moves from there into other services. So the bids are funded by assessment fees. The property owners in that geographical region pay assessment or taxes, whichever way you want to look at it. And then those taxes are channeled through the city and back to the business improvement district to provide support for a lot of the supplementary services that the bids provide. And the bids are governed by a board that usually consists of the property owners, businesses, residents, and community stakeholders, the elected officials, and so on. So I just said start out, maybe this will create the vibe, the discussion. What for us, every bid is different. You have to understand your own community that you that your businesses and the property owners are part of. So for us, I think this was where I told us to start off with our strengths and challenges. Where the Flatbush Junction neighborhood is very diverse. We have the Caribbean community on the east side. We have the Jewish community on the west side. We have the Bengali community on the north side and the Italian community on the south side. So when everybody meets at the junction, the junction is a hub. We're a transportation hub. We're the last stop for the 2 and 5 train, of the subway trains. We are also 8 buses plow through the junction. And we also have the traditional, what we call the dollar vans that's being used by especially the Caribbean community that play a very essential role in the whole transportation network. We're an educational hub. We have Brooklyn College there, and we're also a retail hub. We have a mall that houses Target and a host of other national chains. The beauty of our corridor, of our area, is because we have a very diverse, healthy mix of large, mid-sized and small businesses that has helped create the area, create some vibrancy in the area. Our vacancy rate is less than 4%. And I think that it's that diversity in business sizes. So there's always a business for anybody with different price points, to support. And it's for us as the bid, it's imperative that we try to maintain that diverse business size. We notice that in neighborhoods with only small businesses or only large businesses, they have higher vacancy rates than we do. So it's imperative for us to maintain that diversity. So we work very hard with our small businesses and micro businesses that they can afford to stay in the neighborhood. Because the minute they begin to leave, then we know that this is going to create a new environment. So we work a lot with our small businesses primarily on different ways to make sure that they still remain economically vibrant and they can pay their rent and they remain on the corridor. So, another challenge we have is, another strength we have is, our proximity to all the airports. You're just talking about JFK, but we're also very close to the Liberty International Airport in New Jersey. And one strong advantage we have is all our restaurants are quick service restaurants. We don't have any fine dining restaurants. This saved us and helped us during COVID, because all our restaurants did was shut their doors but continue to do the same thing. They didn't have any fine dining, no white cloth, no front office, back office type structure. All they did was shut their doors. And most people, a lot of people that lived in the community were part of the essential workers force during COVID, so they still had to go to work. So even though there was a drop in revenue for many of our restaurants, it was not as significant. They did not have to close, shut their doors down like all the other type restaurants. And some of our challenges as well. I mean, everybody, the homeless mental crisis is a big problem in New York City, and we work hard with city agencies to try to manage that. As you know, there's been a pop-up of illegal marijuana dispensaries. There are only 3 that are legal in New York City, but they're popping up all over the place and selling illegally to young kids. That is the problem. And because of the mental health crisis, there's a lot more retail, there's a lot of theft in many of our retail stores. So that's another thing that we're working with NYPD as well to help manage. I think our strength is we try to deviate from the traditional ways of doing things. This access to funding, especially dealing with our small businesses, we try to let our businesses know that the best time to go to a bank to ask for money is when you don't need it. You do not go to a bank when you are highly leveraged or in a desperate situation, because they're not going to want to deal with you. If you cannot afford to pay them back, why should they give you their money? So we work very hard with a lot of our small businesses to think of ways they can internally change the way they do business so they look more attractive. And then they will begin to have the banks now begin to notice that. So what we created, the first thing we did was we had the intersection at the junction and junction space. These are programs where we work with a lot of the local artists and designers in the community to go into these businesses and change the way these businesses look on the inside, and help them with introduce them to social media, to e-commerce and social media marketing. And what this has done, this is just an example of one of our local businesses, a dry cleaning store, where before the artists went in to support them, to work with them, all they did was to change the color here. And all of a sudden, this storefront stood out. And people then noticed that this was a dry cleaning service. But they also went in and helped her with social media. At least she helped her create a Facebook page. Remember, a lot of our small businesses are owned by immigrants. And immigrants are it's difficult for them to embrace change. You really have to develop some sort of dialogue with them and relationship with them before they begin to open up and slowly now begin to listen to what you have to provide. So we work a lot of these businesses on a one-on-one basis. So the artist went into her store, changed, painted up the place, put up all these signage, and all of a sudden, she was getting 2 new businesses every 2 weeks. It changed to 4 new customers daily. Weekly, she was getting $140 to $160 a week. It changed to between $400 and $600. Average revenue on Saturdays, weekends was $180 to $200. It changed to $800.
Wow, big difference.
Now, the banks came calling, and she had to now decide what she was going to do. I advised her, you better get some money now, because we all know what the challenges small businesses have.
Yep.
So get some money now and keep it to the side for the next economic downturn, where you'll be able to apply it. But this is what we did. But it also helped the community as well. A lot of the artists who live in the community now were exposed to the challenges many of these small businesses had, and also exposed to different cultures. We have some Russian artists that tasted jerk chicken for the first time and loved it. So it created that camaraderie and dialogue. Business development, because we support the small businesses and we understand them and the property owners, what we did on this end was, it was difficult bringing all our small businesses together under one roof to talk about business development ideas. So we set up this Taste the Flavor at the Junction, where we had only the eateries, the quick service restaurants, from the big ones like Applebee's and Dallas BBQ to the small local quick service restaurants, put them under one big tent and have them give out food, do food tastings to the neighborhood. And what we did essentially was to put a big business between 2 small businesses. And what that did was they learned practically just listening to the way these businesses spoke to their clients.
Right.
So the first time we did it, all the big businesses, all the employees were dressed in black. The second year, the small businesses and the large businesses, all the employees were dressed in black. Nobody said anything. They just all observed and took it from there. So that is the only way, this was the only way we could get our businesses to begin to talk and dialogue with each other. But doing it through Zoom or bring them together under a roof did not work. So we did this with the restaurants.
Right.
And then with the retail side, in the Christmas, we did the holiday tidings, where all the targets to the smallest retail stores and professional services, we created gift bags where each of these businesses would put an item. And our professional services put businesses like the law firms and the accounting firm put their cards in these bags. And we gave out these bags to the community, and many of the businesses had all kinds of games, and you had Santa Claus, you had Elmo, there was music, and we were giving out them there's a truck there, free hot coffee, cider, and coffee, cider, and chocolate to members of the community. And that's just how everybody left with a bag, but a bag that covered all the retail and professional services businesses in the area.
Nice.
We also support our property owners. We're a business improvement district, and we're trying to get our small property owners to understand the fact that everybody calls it gentrification. We call it economic gentrification. The people moving into the neighborhood, that people of different colors, they just make more money. And so what we have done is, when developers approach our property owners, we got them to sit down with corporate real estate brokers to talk to them about different ways they could apply their properties to add value and create equity, generational wealth. So this is an example. Crystal Manor, it was 5, 6 buildings, mixed-use buildings like this, belonging to one small business owner. And they met with the developer, and now they own, from 100% of this, they own 33% of this.
Wow, interesting.
So they did not sell. What they did was they went into partnership with the developer, and this is what came out of it. And so any developer that goes to any of our small businesses here or property owners and say, we want to buy, can we buy your property? They are shocked when the property owners say, oh, we have a commune here. Are you interested in coming together, partnering with us so we could go up higher?
Air rights.
Air rights, they're discussing air rights and other large, so-called large developments.
Correct.
And that is the way it should be.
Of course.
So this is what we've been trying to get our property, how we've gotten our property owners involved and creating equity for future generations.
Okay, quick question, what's the average price of some of those commercial property there, since these developers are asking to purchase?
Well, so this could go for about, this is a mixed use, you have a commercial at the bottom and 2 residential.
Right.
It could go for about 1.5 million, depending on how much work it needs. But most of these properties have been paid off by the small property owners.
Okay.
So they're just sitting on equity.
Right.
Really.
Got it.
And then COVID enabled us to look within ourselves and build up because we knew New York City was not getting any tourism for some time. We all know what COVID did to tourists, to the tourism industry. So we looked internally, what are our strengths in our community? What is it that we can, from a hyper-local perspective, how can we get more people within and outside, within New York City to come by our area to visit, to increase the foot traffic? By increasing the foot traffic, just supporting the small businesses and the large businesses as well. So we came up with this hyper-local tourism initiative. We found out that there were, within our bid footprint, there were 10 triangular shaped buildings. So we used that, we created the Triangle Junction tours, where people can go to each of these buildings. And as they walk from one building to the next, they are passing on the local businesses as well. So we hope it will create an incentive for them to now stop by and support these local businesses. What we also did was we forced a lot of our small businesses to go and build on social media, create their own logos, so they could create postcards. This is the business logo for Ovis. Visit Ovis Place. When it comes to wraps, we don't fool around. This is talking about the Triangle Junction tour. And then with this logo, we then impose it on the card and show exactly where the Ovis location is. And Ovis now puts this in every bag of food that is being ordered at the restaurant.
Excellent.
Okay, and this is how we promote the whole Triangle Junction tours concept. What we're working now is with an AI engineer is to create an avatar where you can book online for a small fee and get to visit each of these buildings, building up history of these buildings, former businesses that were there prior. Flatbush Junction is a very historic area from the 1800s, you know, from the farmland and so on. So we're trying to build that concept up all the way to what it is now. And we're working with the AI team and students at Brooklyn College to do that.
About 7 more minutes, Ken.
Okay, so now this is a concept that East Flatbush has a very high heat index. It has the highest heat index in New York City.
Really?
So we're looking at a way to, and this has the least number of cooling centers. So what we decided to do was to create a public mural program that will draw tourists to the area, but also address the heat index. And we came up with the Umbrella Sky project. This is coming up on June 1st.
Oh, nice.
So on our public plaza, we have, if you go to Europe, in England, Portugal, you see these umbrella plazas all over the place, France and so on. We are the first to do this in New York State. There's only one, I think Pittsburgh also has this, but it's not going to look as pretty as this by the time we have finished. And we have the students, painters coming in to paint the street as well. And this is going to be launched on June 1st. So now we can have our seniors. There's a growing senior community in Brooklyn. They'll be able to come out when it's very hot, sit under the shade, the umbrellas, to eat, interact, and to do their yoga and other types of physical exercises. And from the bid, one area we try to look at to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the others is around environmental sustainability. So we created the first and only Upcycle Junction market, where we have artists and designers house the market every Sunday. This was pre-COVID, but we're going to start again next year, where we have designers and artists sell products made strictly from recycled materials. Strictly. If your products are not made from recycled materials, you don't belong here. What this has done is it has allowed us to create a market that does not compete with the existing businesses in the area and drawing a new crowd, a new breed of clients that appreciate that. Another thing we did was the Upcycle Holiday Tree contest, where artists and designers create a holiday tree. It's a competition.
Nice.
Where they create a holiday tree made strictly from recycled materials.
Nice. So
this was for the last, we've done it for 2 years now. This was the first tree, and this is the second tree where she had a projector on these images, and they were speaking different languages, reflecting the diversity in the area about environmental sustainability impacts. So the Upcycle Holiday Tree contest. And so that's one way we've been able to create a vibe, keep our businesses flowing, and show some differentiation from many of the other bids who are a lot bigger than we are at Flatbush Junction. And please go to exploreflatbush.com if you want to get to know more about what we do. Thank you very much.
thank you, David. Thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions, both online and in the audience from Mr. MBonu? Dr. V?
Yes.
You know, I was going to ask this, because you mentioned Brooklyn College as your, you use both the students and, for most of the things that you do. Does your zip code or your area not cover this side?
No, it doesn't. So our geographic corridor is Flatbush Avenue.
Okay.
Flatbush Avenue is a very long stretch.
Yes.
It's a 10-mile stretch.
10 months.
There are actually 3 bids on Flatbush Avenue. Okay, you have the North Flatbush bit that has where the next stadium is, Brooklyn, the Barclays Center.
Yes,
Then you have the Flatbush Avenue, Church Avenue bit
correct.
in the middle. That's and then you have the Flatbush Junction bit. That's us all the way south. So our corridors is Flatbush Avenue from Farragut Road to Avenue H, where Target is, and Nostrand Avenue from Glenwood Road to Avenue H. So that geography is us alone. Flatbush Bid, we are Flatbush Junction. Flatbush Bid and Church Avenue Bid is a different area, and the North Flatbush Bid is where the Brooklyn next Barclays Center. So the bids are created by certain defined geographical zones.
So how do we find out if bids cover Crown Heights?
So
this area?
the property owners who have the largest stake have to come together to agree to
Correct.
have a bid.
Yeah.
The beauty is because Medgar Evers is here, you could be the principal pilot to get them together. Organizations, non-profits do not pay assessment fees. So because Brooklyn College does not pay assessment fees, in kind they gave us an office on their campus. That's the only way of saying thank you.
Right.
Okay, but the property owners are the ones for that. Private ownership are the ones that pay the assessment fees. So the Medgar Evers can reach out to the property owners here. First of all, the way it starts is usually you get a merchants association. You build, somebody takes up the lead and creates a merchants association in a certain area, and then the merchants then push to the property owners to create a business improvement district. Because what happens is that those assessment fees are usually passed to the merchants by the property owner.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the two have to agree. That's to be a sense of balance for them to do it.
Very wonderful presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Dasha, you
Just I wanted to say thank you because that model is such a wonderful model. I was just thinking that model can be replicated around the city, around the world.
Yeah, so why we're very proud of what we do is it's not traditional. We use art and design and environmental sustainability as a way to create value. Remember, people are more inclined to pay more of a premium for businesses or products that have an environmental or health link with it. If I am selling you this product and I put it in a plastic bag, I can sell it to you for $1. But if I put it in a brown bag, you will pay $1.50 for it, right? In this tough retail market where prices are being challenged every day, how can you differentiate yourself from everybody else? And we think this environmental sustainability concept is a way to let your clientele know that you are conscious and still add a premium on your product, and they will still support you instead of going next door and buying it at a cheaper price.
Thank you.
So we have to practice what we preach. We cannot go to our local businesses and say environmental sustainability if we're not discussing the language ourselves. So we try to create environmental sustainable initiatives so they can see what we are doing, and then hopefully that bounces off.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both you and Kim Hardy, and to those viewers online, that we hope that this portion of it, which differs than the traditional presentation from faculty, is that we do these panels to bring a lot of still business, everything from yesterday to today on these panels, but it gives you more of a practical sense, again, in terms of the intersectionality of how government, and we call it, P3, public-private partnerships, work together with the JFK Airport One, with the Business Improvement District, and there's 76 of them. So very good, yes, I have some in my neighborhood as well, in Bed-Stuy as well. We have them, and it starts with the merchant. But again, all of this is to help you, those of you in the academy, that you can work with small businesses, right, from this concept, and then develop, right, the white paper on why this is important and how this will generate business. You heard how Ken said what they did during the pandemic in terms of all of these businesses. You saw the illustration of the cleaners that, you know, until they came in and did a marketing stuff, until they said, you need to get on Twitter, you need to be on Facebook, right? Because traditional merchants really don't want to move to that level. Again, it takes concept and education to bring people together. You know, as Kim Hardy said with this project, 10,000 jobs, right? There's training that needs to be there in place. There's sustainability agreement, environmental companies that will come in, right? For those people who live in Queens or Brooklyn. There's a way, lastly, where the academic institution play a role in these development projects. So thank you very much for the opportunity to serve, and I hope that you enjoyed these two interesting panels yesterday and today that's why we called it a panel workshop, that you can hear from these subject matter experts in this field. They all in Nigeria, Pace University, Kim at Yale Law School, Harvard and Yale, the top universities like you guys have, Oxford. This is where they come from, the best. But they decide to go into the public sector. They could be making millions of dollars in the private sector, but it's that community building, how their education transformed them to do greater. And I hope our brother from over there from London enjoyed the presentation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.